Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. You're very welcome, and today we're going to do another model review. This is a very interesting one. It's another of the great Wingnut Wings kits, which if you don't know already, seems to now be pretty much confirmed that Wingnut Wings are no longer in business, which is a very sad day really. As discussed in my own videos and many others, reviews that you can see, these things are pretty much as good as plastic injection moulded model kits get. They're on a different level to other model kits. There's a attention to detail, a quality in the moulding and the plastic and the whole concept, but we'll come to that in a bit more detail. But today we're going to have a look at, I was going to say a rare kit. Well, they're all rare kits now, but this one is particularly rare. It belongs to a relative of mine actually, so I'm going to handle it with great care. Fingers crossed. We have here the, I'm going to try and make sure I get the pronunciation right on this, the Jeannin Stahltaube 1914 monoplane. It's a World War I German monoplane military aircraft intended to be basically a fighter bomber. They used a lot of handguns on these sort of aircraft right at the start of the war, and used to drop bombs or bomblets out the side. Now if you just bear with me, I'll give you a little bit of a spiel from the side of the kit, because it's a bit of an eye-opener. First of all, the appearance of this aircraft, as you can see, I'll zoom in a bit more. As you can see, it looks like a bird. It looks like a prehistoric sort of pterodactyl style of bird. It's got these bird-like wings with ribs on them, and this very bird-like tail. I mean, like a swallow or a swift almost. So it's a very attractive aircraft, but it does look like one of the very first generation planes, if we're being honest. And what it says on the side, I'll just zoom you out a little bit more. It says here, as you suspected when you looked at the design, the delicate bird-like Taube came to epitomise early German aircraft designs. The wealthy Austrian industrialist Etrich based his successful Taube design on the stable gliding characteristics of the Xenonia macrocarpa as described by Professor Friedrich Alborn in his aeronautical research paper published in Germany in 1897. So this is a 19th century design, okay, which it kind of looks like. Ego began his work in 1900 and was joined by his engineer Franz Wels in 1903, and their remarkably stable and comparatively safe Etrich Taube stands for dove, by the way, Taube 2 successfully took to the air in April 1910. Because of the previously published Alborn research paper, the German Patent Office denied Etrich a patent for this design in September 2011. This led to a dizzying array of copycat Taube designs being churned out by dozens of other German manufacturers, and one of the most successful was the steel-tubed framed Jeannin Stahltaube 1914 military type that we have here. It was powered by a 100 horsepower Daimler Mercedes D1 and 120 horsepower Argus AS2 six-cylinder engines, and became one of the most widely operated Taubes in the German military. Aircraft such as the Taube were utilised for reconnaissance, but airmen started carrying bombs, as I mentioned, and personal firearms shortly after the hostilities commenced in the summer of 1914. However, by the middle of 1915, any remaining Taubes in military service were relegated to training units. Now I think we can probably guess why that would be. It's a beautiful and elegant aircraft, but I think, you know, the Allied fighters of the day would just chew it to pieces. And we'll get into why in a few moments, but let's have a look at the model first of all. So I'll zoom you in a bit more and we'll get cracking. So, another masterpiece, and we'll talk about the availability of this at the end, which you'll find very interesting, I think. Now then, here we go. Oh dear. It's kind of a bit sad, this, isn't it? A rather attractive poster based on the Lord Kitchener poster from the First World War. Wingnut Wings, thanks you for your support. Well, sadly, obviously our support wasn't enough, because as I mentioned, Wingnut Wings has basically folded, and all the teams who work there in production and design have all been made redundant. So very sad day. But a beautiful poster, isn't that nice? I like that. And on the back it has all the entire range of their kit range. Let's see if we can get a bit closer for that one. So every model is there. It makes you realise that, you know, that maybe this was their problem. They had a big diverse range, but they were not diverse enough because it was all World War One. As we know, they were working on this Lancaster project, which looked unbelievably good. I mean, just was going to be the best model kit of all time, no question. And sadly, that's not happening. So it's heartbreaking. Anyway, I like it. It's very nice. Now let's get a look at the kit. Now, given that this is not mine, and it's a relative of mine, and it's now a very, very rare and valuable item, we won't be opening the bags for obvious reasons. So bear with me. I'll try and get you the best view I can, despite being in the bags. Now here we go. We've got these most beautiful, elegant wings. I mean, it's a lovely design, isn't it? It literally does look like a bird. So let's have a look at that. Now you'll see here, because I've got the backlighting deliberately, so you can actually see, as with the real aircraft, you can see through the wing. Now, what is very unusual, certainly by modern standards, about the way this aircraft was controlled, was that it didn't have any ailerons or elevators or control surfaces in the normal way. It relied on a series of wires that basically distorted the tips of the wing and the tips of the tail to act like elevators or ailerons, and they call it wing warping. Now, because of this, it wasn't the most manoeuvrable of aircraft, and this is one of the reasons it became obsolete so fast. Obviously, the Allies were producing things like the SE-5 and, you know, later the Sopwith Camon. These things were incredibly manoeuvrable, darty little planes. This one, because obviously it came from an earlier generation design, from an earlier century, it wasn't manoeuvrable, and it just couldn't compete. But let's not worry about that. Let's just look at the actual quality of the moulding to it. I mean, this is absolutely remarkable because they've actually achieved, if you look at both sides, it's the same. So they've got this rib effect in the centre, and it's got this like gossamer thin skin, just like the real aircraft. I hope that's coming through on the video. Just going to zoom a bit more, make sure that you're seeing it. It's incredible. That's just beautiful, and it's so thin, you've got to be very careful. And it's like a bird's wing, it's like a skeleton of a bird. Absolutely beautiful thing. Most unusual, isn't it, as a design? Then we've got, now I was very tempted to almost open this bag, I'm not going to, but it did, like several that we've seen on the Wingnut Wings reviews I did before, some of them arrive sort of partially open, as you can see, but no, well, it is actually on the corner. We can actually take that one out, I think. It is open, seams open here. It's very gentle. There we go. The engine. Now, I've been making a few silly mistakes when I've been doing these reviews, to be honest. I keep on looking at engine parts and saying, oh look, there's the cam cover. And a lot of these parts I keep pointing out as cam covers are in fact the sump, and they often didn't have a cam cover, so I've learned from this. But let's have a look at this. We've got the cylinders, cylinder heads, we've got the exhaust manifold here. That's beautiful. Again, you know, Wingnut Wings, we wouldn't expect any less from them, would we? Look at that. That's superb. Very, very nice. And some very fine pipe work here. Look at that. That's incredible. Fish. It's lovely, isn't it? And a nice propeller. That's pretty. It just a throwback to a simpler time, isn't it, of aviation. Doesn't look like a warplane in the normal sense, I've got to be honest. But that's the sort of charm of aircraft like this. Just carefully put this back in. We don't want to unzip the entire bag. We're going to look if it opened. It's strange how some of these come unzipped. There are other, another review I'll be doing later, we have another later generation type of bag where they're much better bags actually, and they are much clearer, which gives you a much better image. Right, now then, here we go, fuselage parts, and again, the tail. Now can we see that? We've got this translucent effect again, where they've achieved this superb moulding on the tail section, which is like a bird's tail. It's just brilliant. And again, it's so thin here, so thin. Absolutely beautiful. It's ribbed. You see the ribs? And then it gets finer and finer and finer. It's almost like gossamer thin, like the real thing. And this is the tail section that was pulled by wires to distort it into like an elevator effect. Quite how long these, the durability of this was, I dare not think. But I wouldn't want to be flying one of these and come up against an SE5 or a Sopwith Camel, I can tell you. The moulding quality and the panel line detail and some of the finishing on the corners where they've got like the stretched skin effect is absolutely astonishing. One thing I should mention as well, one of the reasons this aircraft wasn't very successful as a fighter plane, I mentioned about the wing warping as being the way that it is controlled, but apparently one of the biggest problems with it was also the rudder. It has this tiny rudder here, like a top and bottom rudder, and it wasn't very effective. So again, just a lack of control surfaces, but the moulding here is beautiful. Now then, I'll make sure I don't make the classic mistake I've made on some of the other reviews, which is where I seem to keep getting push rods for an rotary engine mixed up with wheels, because they look very similar. But what have we got here? We've got the wheels, tyres, various options including different wheel cover options here. We have got some of these little tiny bomblets, very early bombs as per used in 1914. See those? Absolutely so slender, they're like a dart. And they've been beautifully reproduced by Wingnut Wings. Look how fine the actual, I don't know if you can see the fins. The fins are so fine, absolutely remarkable. And then we've got a few other engine parts. We've got alternative propeller, and going back to what I was saying about me mixing up cam covers with sumps, this is definitely the sump. Okay, I learned. Okay. And then we've got the camshafts, we've got the cylinders of the engine here, and the fuel system, and oh, look at this. I mentioned at the beginning when we talked about they started carrying weapons. If you look very carefully, you can see here a weapon. Oops, some focus. Can we make that out? That is a Luger pistol with a shoulder stock. It's absolutely tiny. It's brilliant. That's excellent. I like that. Very nice. Okay, we've got some clear parts. There's like a little visor just in front of the pilot, which looks nice. And final sprue. Because there's not a lot to this aircraft really, it's just like a string bag monoplane really. shouldn't be harsh about it. I mean, they're beautiful and elegant, aren't they? It's an earlier time, isn't it, when things were very rudimentary in the design. But we've got what looks like the undercarriage supports here, legs, trim wheel here. Bring it a bit closer. And then we've got various parts of the framework and bulkheads. Some superfine moulding here. That is remarkable. Remarkable. Look at that. Look at that. That is super fine moulding. It looks like it's the... not sure what it is actually, if I'm honest. I'll come to that when we get into the... I don't know if it's the HT leads. I don't know what it is. But it's super fine. Absolutely remarkable. The nicest moulding I've ever seen. And you know, you come to expect that Wingnut Wings. I mean, ejector pin marks, not really an issue anywhere, as you would expect. So now we will come to the decals and instructions. We have got some very nice decals here. Small they are not. These are the biggest German crosses I've ever seen. They're massive. They cover the entire wing pretty much. Just looking back, yeah, they do. They pretty much cover the entire wing chord. And some typical World War I style German script font writing. You see that there? It's very nice. Yeah, and there's a few stencils, not many thankfully. Now, I read a comment about this by another famous modeller who pointed out that they're very finely moulded, these parts of the wheels we saw, but if you wanted it to be even more scale-like, then Wingnut Wings also provide you with the wheel spokes in photo-etch, and that really does give you a little bit more thickness realism. There's some belts there as well, safety belts I think. That's very nice, very nice indeed. Yeah. That's great. So, let us now have a little read of this, what no doubt is going to be a treat, an instruction manual, because they always are. Sorry, I'm just going to have a slurp of coffee before I get going on this. Alright, here we go. So, nice illustration. It's got yellow wings, this one, for some reason. Delicate and bird-like, they call it. It certainly is that, isn't it? Right. So, instructions. Usually an absolute joy. Wingnut Wings do them like nobody else. Sure enough, here we go. They have this beautiful 3D sort of photo quality to the images, which enables you to really understand what they're trying to represent and how these things go together. You start with the bulkheads and then you build the monocoque, tubular sort of frame monocoque chassis if you like. It's very good. It has an interestingly quite practical looking chair. It looks more pilot's seat and the navigator's seat. It looks far more practical than others we've seen. Some of them look like a stool out of a pub, you know. Here we go with the engine, starting with the sump, prop shaft, intake pipes, building up, putting the cylinders in there, camshafts and rocker covers, rocker boxes in fact. It's a lovely looking engine actually. So it's still, you know, for the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, it still looks pretty advanced to me. And you've got both, oh I didn't realise you actually have both engines included. So you have the Daimler, which is the one we just looked at. Now you have the more powerful 120 horsepower Argus engine as well. So looking at them, the Argus has got 6 cylinders. They've both got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're both 6 cylinder. Perhaps it's got a higher compression ratio or some other factor. Perhaps it's the porting design on the valves, gives a bit more power, but it's very nice, a real work of art. Then we've got the engine going in, and you've got the two different options and how they fit in, the two different engine choices that you have. Then there's some holes, one or two other things that need to be drilled, and then we've got the fuselage. And all the frame, gravity-fed fuel tanks. Again, no pump, obviously. And then we've got coming into the plane itself then with the the wings for the tailplane, and there's this rather rudimentary rudder that we spoke about. It's just a little bit of a delicate one, yeah. Forgive the noise in the background, my bin men have just arrived, I think. They come at a very strange time. Undercarriage and radiators, here we go, undercarriage. Again, lots of strengthening struts and wires that hold it in tension. Shows the Argus engine there, and this option of the different way you can either have the moulded or the PE wheels. And then we've got the options of the different blades of propellers, which obviously depends on which engine you've got, and then putting in your exhaust manifold and your exhaust pipes. And as we talked about earlier, these amazing weapons. So we've got the Luger I mentioned, Luger pistol automatic, and also a flare gun too. And we've got a 20 kilogram carbonite bomb. I think the ones we were just looking at were more like flechettes. I don't know if they're going to come to that in a second. And then we have all of the rigging, and this does look like a challenge, doesn't it? We've got more rigging, I think, than I've seen on any sort of small aircraft so far of these kits. And then we've got some lovely photographs showing the aircraft in flight on the ground. Look how bird-like it is. It's just like looking at a Swift, isn't it? It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it deserves sort of better than to be a warplane, really. It's too nice to be a warplane. And then markings and various stencils and positions and where they all go. That's all very well explained. And then we've got the actual colourings, paint call-outs and colourings, and these massive crosses we spoke about. Well, actually, the more massive ones are there, where it fills the entire wing chord. Anyway, some pictures of one in the museum as well. The Deutsche Luftfahrt Sammlung Museum. There we go. It doesn't say where that is actually. Shipped to Poland after the war. Some very interesting dates there actually. But look, again, even with the German cross on, look how it looks like a bird in flight. Beautiful, isn't it? It's a truly unique looking aeroplane. Another option here. 1915. This is when they were sort of farming them out purely for reconnaissance, or mainly for training though, because they were considered to be too risky to put in the front line. The Allied fighters were shooting them down like pigeons in a barrel, so to speak. So it says here, recent alterations and repair to the rudder on this one can be seen, and there are control cable exits in the rear fuselage instead of having it on the outside. Patches. And then finally another early 1915 one, again being used as a training aircraft by this time I think for the German Air Force before they moved on to their albatrosses and more modern fighters that were available. Some great close-ups though, showing the overhead tank there, little field tank. It's not very big. Yeah. Translucent nature of the wings is visible in this photograph, it says. It certainly is translucent. I mean, Wingnut Wings have captured that in a quite unique way, I think. It's spellbinding the way they've done it. And again, you can see that translucent element here in the tail and the wingtips. And yeah, one of the manufacturers was the Gotha company. They're manufacturing some here, pictures of it in the factory. And a Rumpler Taube is one of the 1912 models, one that's crashed. Oops. And unidentified airman sits in a 120 Argos powered Jeannin Stahltaube. Judging by the way the airplane drag cable enters the fuselage, it must be a Klein short Stahltaube, I've seen on page 13. So there's quite a few different variants and different ways that they were setting them up. Well, there we go. There we go. So, bring you back out, and I'll have a quick swig of coffee, if you don't mind. And we need to talk about, if you want one of these, aha, yes, there's a problem. I've got to say, it's one of the nicest planes to look at. you know, straight away when you look at it, oh, there's the little bombs, we missed that. Let's just be quick for this. Yeah, there we go. There's the bombs, what were they, 20 kilogram bombs. There you go. So, in summary, it looks flawless, it's just beautiful. As you would expect, of course. I know I always say that, but it's true, isn't it, really? The problem you've got though, if this impresses you, and it should, because I think it's beautiful. The problem you have, if you want one, is well, you can't have one, basically. Obviously, as I mentioned, Wingnut Wings are no longer in production. But you have a more serious problem now in that obviously there's almost rare items, and this is one of the rarer ones I think anyway, becoming rarer and rarer. I've been searching this morning before I decided to shoot the review. See if I could find one on the internet. No, I couldn't find one of these for sale anywhere. At all. Not on eBay, scoured the world, nothing, not a sausage. What it's worth, and I'm going to talk about values of these things, and this is a moving subject, so it's anything I say is not set in stone, but it's based on what people are selling them for around the world on the market. Well, I don't know with this one because you can't get it for love nor money, so it's really rare. They were retailing at about 70 to £80 when they came out. I've just seen a couple of ones I have got that have actually now doubled. I paid for one of my recent ones, I think it was the Sopwith triplane, I paid I think £80. Just as the rumours came out of Wingnut Wings, I actually went into the market and bought a few that you've seen. And the Red Baron was a bit more than that, but even the ones at £80 are now exchanging hands for £160, £180 already. This one you can't get, there just don't seem to be any on the market. So this, I would say that's probably worth £200 plus and climbing. And we'll just keep on climbing, there's only one direction for these to go in. I'm going to do another review shortly on a really even rarer probably, or certainly as rare. You can't get any rarer than not available, can you? But there's a twin set, which I won't spoil it there by telling you the details, but that's one where the prices, because it's a big aircraft and a smaller aircraft, the price of those has just got absolutely stratospheric, just absolutely crazy. So these things are getting to the point where you question whether you can, I won't say afford, but whether you dare to make it, which is a bit sad, isn't it, really? I mean, that'd be a beautiful kit if it's built, and will be so evocative of an earlier, more simple time of aviation. It reminds me of those magnificent men in their flying machines. But anyway, in summary, if you can get your hands on one of these under £200, then do. You probably won't though. So I'll be returning this safely to its owner. I'm sure he'll be pleased, especially now he knows what it's worth if he didn't already. But people shouldn't buy them for the value. Obviously, you should buy it because you want the kit, or you want to keep it in your collection, or build it. But sadly, the way things go with Wingnuts, I think that a lot of people are going to become speculators market. You know, that's a bit of a shame. I mean, perhaps I'm guilty too, if I'm honest. But I haven't gone crazy. I've just gone one or two of the ones I thought were really nice, and sort of some of the ones that got the figures with them, which are really excellent. But we'll talk about this more in my next video. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a beautiful model, as they always are. Just leave you with that thought. If you can get your hands on one, do. If not, I hope you enjoyed the review. Keep watching and subscribing, and there will be more coming very, very soon. Watch out for the next video, because that's going to be a real surprise in terms of the value of the model and the scale and complexity. A real beauty. I mean, something that's perhaps never going to be equalled. Let's hope I'm wrong, but not for a while anyway. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks a lot for your company. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. In the meantime, bye for now. Thanks a lot.